Hey everybody, happy Thursday and welcome back to Islands Uncovered. My name is Megan and I am the owner of Dare to Dream Travel. Thank you so much for tuning in today. I wanted to dig in right away to the Sandals and Beaches resort updates and promos. And there's not much to report this week on resort updates. We did have our town hall meeting with the executive chairman, Adam Stewart, last week. He gave us a great overview of all the resorts in Jamaica. As we've talked about, the ones in Ocho Rios and in Negril will be opening on December 6th. But then also he spoke about the hurricane damage to Sandals South Coast and the resorts in Montego Bay, so Sandals Montego Bay and Sandals Royal Caribbean. Those won't be opening until May 30th, but I'm really confident that they are going to open. So if you are looking to book a trip and see those resorts newly refreshed, we did not get much detail, but we were told that there are going to be some major updates to those resorts. They're using the time, having them closed to really go in and make the updates that they had been planning to do. So as those updates get announced, I will let you know. I'm super excited to go back and see all three of these resorts and what they have used this opportunity with them being closed to do. I hope they take the time, like they were saying they were going to put in a rum club where the martini bar was upstairs. They were talking about a Butch's Steakhouse and a Bloom Coffee House. I think those three things right there would really elevate Sandals South Coast. I know that resort is some people's favorite resort in Jamaica, so super excited to see what happens there. Otherwise, we didn't really get too much insight into anything else. I was hoping we'd get more info on what they were going to be doing to those resorts. But the good news is that everybody was safe from the hurricane. The resorts in Ocho Rios are in very, very good shape from what we hear. They could have opened sooner, is what he said, but they wanted to take the time and let everybody who is working there to have time to regroup. Obviously, they have personal matters that they need to take care of. Also, he let us know that everybody at these resorts has been staying on the payroll even through the end of May. Some of them are transferring to other resorts to work, but everybody will be staying on the payroll, which I think is fantastic and just another way that Sandals is really helping Jamaica to recover. But what I'm really excited about this week is just to touch on the promotions that are being offered right now. Now is a really, really, really great time to book a Sandals or Beaches trip. And I am not just saying that because I am a travel advisor. I'm saying that because I track the rooms and the sales, and sometimes there's sales that are better than others. I mean, let's be honest. Sometimes you see a sale, and if you watch these, you're like, oh, it's a sale, but that's okay. Right now is a really good time to book. You can book even into 2028. However, most of these sales only go through bookings made through 2027, but that's still 2 years out and you can lock in prices right now. So what we have going on is the Sandals Black Friday sale. We talked about that last week. We've got the percentage off the rooms. We've got the $100 online booking bonus. Those things are standard, so nothing to stand out there. However, they are offering instant credits at all of the resorts, some starting at just 4 nights, and most going up all the way to an instant credit for 10 nights. And the longer you stay, the bigger the instant credit you're going to be. And what's special about this sale is the instant credits go up higher and are more than what they typically are. So you're going to see $1,500 or $1,000 instant credits at the resorts. But remember, it depends on which resort you at and it depends on how long you stay. That is going to determine how much of an instant credit you get. But those are higher than normal. So that's something to watch. And then they also have the $200 spa credit that you can get for just 5 paid nights at any resort. $200 is a higher amount for a spa credit, and there's no restrictions on room category. There's no restrictions on which resort. So that is another great perk that you can add on. They also have the $300 airline credit. I honestly don't see too many people using this. Most people who work with me tend to book their own flights just because you have so much more control over them. So just know that the $300 airline credit is there, but not everybody uses that. And then if you are also looking at some butler category rooms, some of those rooms for 7 or more nights are going to give you 1 free night. So I have a whole list of which resorts have these rooms. Again, they're mostly the Butler rooms. But if you have any questions on this sale or want me to do some workups on best pricing, please just reach out. I've been doing so many quotes lately. I've started posting a lot more on TikTok. And thank you just to everybody who's started following me on TikTok and who has reached out. It's been so fun. And I am so excited about all of the followers that I have gained and all of the trips I've been quoting. And then what's also exciting is on top of that, I have been offered the opportunity to host what's called a virtual VIP experience. And this is going to be for next Tuesday, November 25th at 6 p.m. Central Time. So I apologize if you're listening to this in the future. Please just follow my social media. I guarantee there's going to be more of these. I always have special deals here and there throughout the year. So I encourage you to follow along. But November 25th, 6 p.m. Central Time, 2025. I am hosting this virtual VIP experience. It's me and my business development manager who works for UVI and Sandals. And she's going to come on and she's going to give a high level overview on all of the Sandals and Beaches properties, what makes them special. It's super helpful if you're trying to decide between resorts and how this benefits you besides educating you about the resorts is also if you register for this and if you come on and listen, I am then able to offer you even more booking incentives if you choose to book a trip with me anytime in the 2 weeks that follow. And the Black Friday sale goes through December 2nd. So if you book within that first window before December 2nd, there's ways that we can stack these perks on top of the Black Friday sale. And there are a few restrictions. So it has to be if you are looking at club rooms, 4 or 5 rooms at certain resorts give you $100 spa credit. And then if you book 6 or more nights in a club room at any of the Sandals or Beaches properties, I can offer you things like a 3-hour Discover Scuba package for 2 people. There are credits for candlelight dinner and Photoshop, additional spa credit that we can work so that that credit that you originally have is a little bit more. Or if you're going anywhere in Jamaica or to Beaches, Turks and Caicos, you have the option of getting a free catamaran cruise. So Sandals, 2 people, free catamaran cruise. If you're at Beaches, Negril or Beaches, Turks and Caicos, 5-person catamaran cruise for free. That's honestly the most bang for your buck. It's an over a $500 value. So if you are interested, please reach out, email me. I'm going to put my contact info in the podcast description. And I'll send you the link to register for the virtual VIP event. I promise all you have to do is log on and listen. There's no hard sell that night. Okay, and then next, let's say you can take advantage of this Black Friday sale and you sign up for the virtual VIP experience. If you are lucky, one of the rooms that you are interested in is also going to be on 777 sale this week or next week. So, yesterday we got a whole new batch of rooms, and I'm kind of seeing similar resorts but different rooms. So, for example, we have rooms at Sandals Royal Barbados, Sandals Curacao that are club level. Also, Halcyon Beach has a club level room. We've been seeing a lot of butler rooms at that resort, and this week they have a club level room. Also, then Sandals Royal Plantation has the Royal Monarch Oceanfront Butler Suite. Remember, at Sandals Royal Plantation, all of the rooms are Butler Suite. That's a very small boutique resort, but you do have access to the 2 other Sandals resorts in Ocho Rios that are very close by. So you have access to go over to Sandals Duns River, Sandals Ochi, hang out at those during the day, dine at the restaurants, whatever you want to do, and then you can come back to your nice, quiet butler room at Sandals Royal Plantation. And then I have been seeing so much interest in St. Lucia lately. I do a lot of honeymoons, which is so fun. And they have one room again at Sandals Grand St. Lucian. So this is not the same room as last week. This is the Lover's Lagoon Honeymoon Premium room. So it's different than the room last week, but it's still that luxury level room. And then over at La Toc, there's also an entry level room. It's the Emerald Honeymoon Hideaway Grand Lux room. So 2 entry level rooms in St. Lucia. All the resorts in St. Lucia, all 3 of them, are very different from one another. And so part of my job is to help my clients understand the differences, what's going to be the best fit. And then once we dig into which resort you're interested in, really dig into the room categories, where they're located, I send maps and information about which rooms have been updated recently so that you can make the best decision for you. And sometimes, if you're staying for 7 or more nights, you can even consider doing a split stay. So you could do 4 nights at Grand St. Lucian and 4 nights at Sandals Latok. Latok is typically less expensive than the Grand because the Grand is so popular. But I think it's fun to experience both because they're so different. And so you do have that option as well. It might seem like a hassle to change places halfway through, but if you're going to be there for, like I said, a longer period of time, I think it can be really fun to see the two different properties and decide for yourself which one you might want to return to in a few years for an anniversary trip. And then lastly, we have a club room at Sandals Ochi. So Ochi again is back on the 777 list. This week we have a club room category. And one thing about this room is the poolside club level villa room. This is a really interesting room because you have your own room and then you have a semi private pool. So you share a small pool with a few other rooms right around you. And it can be really fun if you have a group going. So if you have a group of 3 other couples or 2 other couples and you want to put your rooms all next to each other, you share that private pool in the middle. You really feel like you have your own area at the resort. And I think that makes these particular rooms super fun. I love doing group trips. So if you have a group, please reach out. Sometimes there's discounts available, group perks. I'm happy to help talk you through that and make sure that you're getting all the best deals. And then briefly, I did want to touch on the Beaches 777s today. So there's only the two Beaches resorts open right now, Beaches Turks and Caicos and Beaches Negril. So there's not really a lot of variety of rooms because they're going to split it with, 4 rooms at one and 3 at the other. But there are some rooms that I really like on the Beaches Turks and Caicos list this week. So for example, the 3KB is on, and I actually did a YouTube video on this room last week because this is a Key West 3-bedroom garden view butler villa. And we stayed in this room with some friends just last month, and it was perfect for 2 family groups to be together. We had the kids splitting one room. You have a main level that has a dining room table and a smaller table and a whole kitchen area that worked out perfect for us because we were able to put the kids to bed and then stay up a little later playing cards and not worrying about waking up the kids. So if you're traveling with another family, think about booking one of these larger Key West 3-bedroom butler villas that are on 777 this week. They come with a butler. So you're going to have a reserved cabana or beach chairs every day. You have a big group and they're going to get you into your dining when you want to. It's just a really fantastic way to travel. And then the other room I wanted to mention is the Italian concierge family suite with kids room. So the Italian village at Beaches, Turks and Caicos, all the rooms are set up very similar, where they have a king bed and then they have a separate adjoining bedroom where they have bunk beds with a trundle that pulls out. And there's a door that separates it. The kids have their own sink, but not a full bath in there. They have their own TV. It just gives everybody a little extra space. And all of the rooms in the huge Italian village are very similar to this style. But I wanted to particularly mention this room because this room is the least expensive option in the Italian village that is on 777 this week. Otherwise, you're always going to see the upgraded options. They're going to say the penthouse, the walkout, the ocean view, the ocean front or beach front. This is just the straight concierge family suite with kids room. It's a fantastic room. It looks out over the pool. I've stayed in it. So if you are looking to get into the Italian village in one of these rooms, this is the lowest cost room and it's on 777 this week. So it's the lowest it's going to go. So now is a great time to book that room. There's also two bedroom suites over in Negril that are on 777. One is a walkout, one is not a walkout. So that's how they differentiate the two, but both are on 777. They have the standard concierge king and concierge double. Those are lower cost rooms over at Negril. Those are on 777. And then the last room this week is the Key West luxury concierge room. So this is one of the smaller rooms in the Key West Village. It's got a king bed and a single pull-out sleeper chair. So max of 3 people in here, 2 adults, 1 kid, you're all in the same room. This is just a more minimal room if you are just looking to get on the resort and have a great time. I mean, let's be honest, most people are not in their rooms that much anyway. And so this is a great way to snag one of these smaller options over in the Key West Village, which is generally a little bit quieter. Okay, so if you have interest in any of those rooms, learning about pricing changes throughout the year, sometimes even week by week, there are some blackout dates for these. So that's what I'm here for, is trying to help you stack all of these deals on top of each other. The Black Friday, my virtual VIP event next week, and then the 777s. Let me help you do that. My services are always free to you, and I would love to hear from you and help you plan your vacation. Okay, so welcome back to the second half of Islands Uncovered, where we talk about different stories and legends and various people around the Caribbean islands where Sandals and Beaches call their home. So, this is the last week of our Jamaica series. We're heading back to Jamaica today. I love Jamaica so much. I'm actually headed back there next month in December. So if you are not following me on my other social media channels like Instagram or TikTok, definitely do so. I'll provide the links in the show notes. And while I'm there, I'll be doing some videos and just showing everybody what the island looks like in the Ocho Rios area since Hurricane Melissa hit. So encouraging everybody to know that it's open for business and go back. So follow along with me there. But as we all know, Jamaica, it's been known for things like reggae, rum, jerk chicken, as I'd mentioned before, that my son absolutely loves. But today we are going to talk about bobsledding. So, if you have ever been to the Ocho Rios area, you might know that there is a little amusement park area, I guess I would call it. It's called Mystic Mountain. And you have the opportunity over there to ride the famous bobsled roller coaster that essentially goes twisting and turning through the wilderness. And it's a tribute to one of Jamaica's most unlikely chapters that went straight to Hollywood, as we all know the movie Cool Runnings. If you don't know Cool Runnings, if you've never seen it, I strongly encourage you to go and watch Cool Runnings. It's a classic. So, this is the story of how Jamaica, that has no snow, no ice, no bobsled tracks, and very little reason to ever dream of being in the Winter Olympics, suddenly showed up in the Calgary Olympics in 1988. So first, we need to go back and set the stage. How on earth did bobsledders get into the Olympics? So before 1988, Jamaica was mostly known for runners, right? Really fast Olympic sprinters who always dominated in track, but definitely nothing in the Winter Olympics arena. But that all changed thanks to one gentleman named George Fitch. And Fitch was an American diplomat who was stationed at the U.S. Embassy in Kingston in the mid 1980s. And he was having a conversation with his friend, Ken Barnes, who, side note, is the father of legendary, I will call it football, but soccer for anybody listening in the U.S., John Barnes. He's a former professional footballer, soccer player who was born in Jamaica, and he was most known for playing a left winger on the Liverpool team and the England national team as well. So his dad, Ken Barnes, and George Fitch, they were just talking about how Jamaica had such great athletes that they could probably compete in anything. You know, just two guys shooting the shit, talking about sports. And they were just saying how, wow, look around us. So many great athletes. Look at your son. I bet we could even compete in the Winter Olympics. And it was kind of a joke, But then George Fitch started to think about it a little bit more seriously. And he started thinking about what sort of sport Jamaica could compete in the Winter Olympics. So it's got to be something that people are kind of already training for, maybe, or it can't just come out of the blue. You're not just going to pull out like figure skaters. So in the Blue Mountains of eastern Jamaica, he was watching pushcart derbies, and this is a really unique Jamaican sporting event where essentially it started in the 1970s, but people built homemade push carts and raced them downhill. And from what I read, you could use pretty much anything. I saw people were using wheelbarrows or anything really that had wheels for transporting goods, and they took them apart and built them into carts that they could race. And these are homemade carts, and they said that some of them got up to like 60 miles an hour, which is absolutely insane. So George was over there and he was watching these pushcart derby races because this is like a thing. This is a thing that everybody would go to and watch. It was a competition, and he was there and he was watching. And all of a sudden he just thought to himself, like, what if we put these push carts on ice? It's kind of the same thing. It's sprinting fast to get a good start. And then, you just have to sit in it and let gravity take you down the hill. So if Jamaicans could do this in a homemade cart on a mountain road, why not at the Olympics? So that's kind of where the bobsledding idea came from. And the next step is finding people who are actually going to do it. So what he did is he first reached out to some of Jamaica's top athletes who were already training for the 1988 Summer Olympics in Seoul. So he reached out to them, told them his idea, and they all said no. Essentially, they were training for things like track, like I said, and they all knew how dangerous this would be. Nobody knew anything about bobsledding, and they were already on track to go to the Summer Olympics. They were not willing to risk getting hurt for this. So they shut him down. So then he went into the sports clubs in Kingston because you're thinking, like, let's go to a sports club. These people are maybe not Olympic athletes, but generally athletic, and couldn't find anybody in there. Nobody's buying this. And so then what he did is he opened tryouts to the public. And I cannot even imagine if somebody around here was just like, hey, we're just holding some tryouts for a sport that, nobody's ever really done before around here, but we're going to try to go to the Olympics. So let's see. So he had these tryouts and people showed up. There was everybody, they said, from street vendors to fishermen. Anybody was willing to give this a shot. It was very chaotic. They hosted the tryouts, and he got a little help from, they said, Major George Henry, who was in the Jamaica Defense Force. He kind of helped navigate who he thought too might be a good team. So here's how the core team came together. So we've got Devin Harris, who was a middle distance runner, and then Michael White, who was a very fast sprinter from Jamaica. We've got Dudley Stokes, who is a helicopter pilot, and they needed somebody who had really fast reflexes to steer the bobsled. So that's where he came in. And then Freddie Reggae, in quotes, air quotes, this is middle name, Powell. And they just said that he had a lot of raw talent. He was probably just a very generally athletic guy, and he had a really great personality. So that just reminds us that it doesn't matter if you aren't the best at something, your personality is going to help win you over. And that helped to get him on the team. So they also needed a coach. So their coach was Howard Seiler. He was a former U.S. Olympic bobsledder. So he saw the potential in this crew, and he's trained people before, and he said, sure, why not? And George Fitch, the guy with this idea, he invested almost $100,000 of his own money to get them over to Europe so that they could practice on real ice, because obviously they can't practice for the Olympics in the mountains of Jamaica. There's no ice, there's no tracks. So he invested all this money, got them over to Europe, and now they're actually practicing on ice in a bobsled. And somehow, nobody knows how, but they qualified. But what happened was is they almost didn't get to go, even though they qualified, because the International Olympic Committee, despite them meeting the qualifying standards, they were really nervous that this team just did not have enough experience on these Olympic technical tracks. And they were actually worried that the Jamaicans were going to get hurt. It was a general concern for their well-being. And some of them did label a little bit more of a publicity stunt, but I don't know. They did actually qualify. They met the qualifying standard. So I can understand being nervous about being hurt, but the publicity stunt, I mean, maybe it started as that, but if you meet the Olympic standards, I think you should be good. So at first, the IOC, they told Jamaica that they would not be able to compete. But then there were a lot of people who pushed back on this. And the most notable was Prince Albert of Monaco, who was actually an Olympic bobsledder himself. And he reminded everybody, the officials, that Jamaica had met the requirements and earned their spot fair and square, kind of like I said. And so with all the pressure from all of these people, they cleared the team to participate just like days before the Olympics. And obviously the team was ecstatic. So off they go to Calgary. They're in the Olympic Village, and they really expected to kind of be laughed at and made fun of because they knew that they didn't have the same training as a lot of these other Olympic athletes, but really they became instant celebrities in their own right. So all of the athletes from Jamaica, they were really hardworking, obviously, humble, and everybody really just loved them. And Freddie Reggae Powell, it was said that he carried around a tape recorder hoping to score a reggae record deal during the Olympics because maybe he didn't think that his bobsledding career was going to take him to the heights that he would be able to make a living off of it. So it said that he did wander off a lot. He probably wasn't really as focused or serious as some of the other guys. He wasn't a professional musician, but he was really aspiring to be one. So this opportunity to be at the Olympics with all the cameras on him, he thought maybe this would be the perfect place to make his music ambitions a reality. And so his teammates just joked that half the time he was missing from the start house because he was off chatting with spectators or scouting for a producer. But he was such a wonderful person. He was so charming, and he became really the fan favorite of the team. So then we're in Calgary, we're getting to the competition, and originally the team had planned only to compete in the two-man bobsled. So there's a two-man and a four-man, and they thought they were just going to compete in the two-man, and they did well when they did their training run. So they said, well, why don't we just try to do the four? We have four people. But there were a couple problems. Number one, they had no four-man sled. They only had a two-man sled because that's what they were planning to do. So they didn't have a big enough sled. They also had no money left, and they only had 3 athletes available. And so what I read was that Freddie just disappeared. Like they couldn't find him. They wandered off. And I tried to get more information on this. And what it said was that the 4-man bobsled happened a few days later after the 2-man bobsled. And so that time in between gave George Fitch enough time to realize, hey, we want to compete in the 4-man. But Freddie had wandered off because he thought he was done and nobody could find him. He was just in the Olympic Village, I don't know, scoring his reggae deal. So they were struggling to find somebody. And Dudley Stokes, the helicopter pilot who was on the team, his brother Chris was in North America. He was studying on a track scholarship in Idaho, and he was just a few hours away by plane. So they called him up and convinced him to come to Calgary. And they just had to make sure that Chris got his last minute accreditation, which would normally be absolutely impossible to do in that short amount of time. I'm sure today it's impossible, but it was granted. because Jamaica was such a small delegation. So Chris caught a flight to Calgary and he arrived and he only had 4 practice runs with the team before competing, which is absolutely insane. I mean, a 4-man bobsled. You've never done it before. I guess they just needed a body. I don't know how a bobsled works. He's not the guy steering, he's pushing and he's jumping in. The whole thing just blows my mind. And it definitely is something that seems like it would happen in the 80s. But Chris himself, during an interview, said that he was essentially thrown into the sled and told to hold on. So, yeah, they just needed a body. And how they raised money for this sled is they sold t shirts. George Fitch sold t-shirts. That's how popular this team was. He sold enough t-shirts to buy a 4-man sled from the Canadian team. They sold it to him so that these guys could compete. This is like the perfect storm of amazing things happening so that this team can get into this 4-man bobsled event. So then these guys are so popular. It's race day, and news had spread that the Jamaicans were entering the 4-man event. And so almost 40,000 spectators came out to watch. That was 8 times what the usual crowd would be for this bobsled event. And off they go. The team, they exploded with a start, and it was one of the fastest pushes of the day. Got in, they are set, but only a few turns in, the sled slapped on a wall and then it was bouncing back and forth and it flipped. It was super scary because they were trapped under the sled. So it flipped over, they're trapped underneath, it's bouncing back and forth against the walls, there's sparks flying, and George Fitch watching, he thought they were dead, but it finally stopped, and one by one, the team emerged, all of them from the sled, a little bruised, but all of them alive. And in true Jamaican fashion, they stood and waved and reassured the crowd with smiles. And I totally believe that to be true because every single person that I have spoken to who is living in Jamaica right now after this hurricane, their positive attitude when I have been talking to them has been better than any person's attitude who is living in the States who I have talked to about Hurricane Melissa and has nothing to do with it. It is amazing. The people of Jamaica just have this energy and happiness and, for better or worse, shake it off attitude that no other team, I don't think, would have had the same positive attitude after having just crashed on something that they had worked so hard for. So they pushed the sled across the finish line, not over you can watch the video online, not over their heads. Hollywood, in the movie Cool Runnings, it's very dramatic. They have the sled over their heads, but they just pushed it over the line. I'm sure they were a little shaken up and they finished the race. And the world absolutely loved this team for that. After the Olympics, the team from Jamaica returned home. Everybody was cheering for them. The country even put the team's faces on the postage stamps. And again, because of their personalities and attitude, I strongly believe that's why Hollywood came knocking on their door and Cool Runnings was born. And according to a quote from George Fitch, only about 1% of the movie Cool Runnings was true. As we all know, movies are dramatized, including the famous quote, "Feel the rhythm, feel the rhyme, get on up, it's bobsled time." All of that was pure Disney magic, but it still immortalized the team and inspired everybody around the world to dream for things that maybe seem impossible and unconventional. And even today, the legacy continues. Jamaica returned to the Winter Olympics in the future. It's said that in 1994 in Lillehammer, the Jamaican bobsled team finished in front of the United States, Italy, and Russia. I don't know what place they came in, but they finished in front of those teams. So they're doing something right. And thanks to that 1988 team, several other Caribbean islands field winter sports programs. So it inspired a lot of people around the Caribbean to train for unconventional sports that they might be interested in as well. And of course, I mentioned Mystic Mountain in Ocho Rios keeps the story alive for visitors. You can climb into a bobsled, race through the forest, no ice, super fun. I strongly encourage you to go over to Mystic Mountain if you are in that area. So, in closing, the Jamaican Bobsled Team, no, they didn't win a medal in 1988. And so, even though there's no hardware, it is definitely a story worth telling. And even if the movie is only 1% true, is still a movie worth seeing. Thanks for listening today. I have all of my sources listed in the show notes. Please follow my podcast on Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you are listening today. You can follow me on all my social media channels, including Instagram, Facebook, TikTok. I'll list all of those links in the show notes as well. And of course, if you are interested in booking a trip to one of these Caribbean islands at a Sandals or Beaches resort, please reach out. I've always got some great deals for you. Next week, I have the virtual VIP event where I'm going to have promos available only if you sign up through the link, register, listen to it, and then book a trip with me in the 2 weeks that follow. Those are perks that you can only get from a travel advisor. If you're listening to this podcast at a later date and that has already gone by, I strongly encourage you to follow me on social media because I do get these promos a few times throughout the year, and that way you can watch for them. Thank you so much for listening, and I hope you tune in next week when we explore a different Caribbean island for the first time. Bye-bye.